Good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world today. And thank you for joining us again. Today we have the lovely and beautiful Eva Maria Hunt. So I'm just adding her now, and not to worry. Hopefully we are able to avoid most of the usual technical difficulties that we sometimes have on these, but you never quite know, do you?
Hey, Stefan.
That was quick. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you okay?
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much for asking. Ava, I do have to ask you though to just please turn your phone to portrait mode because with Instagram Lives, the it doesn't pick up if you go into landscape. It doesn't switch the camera around. Yeah, but that's perfect. Yes, wonderful to have you with us here today. Thank you so much for taking time out. I know it's also quite early by you. I think you're in Europe, so it's Central European time, right?
Yeah, I'm in the UK, 7:30. It's a bit early to talk, but
Oh,
it's okay.
sorry about that. Well, thank you then definitely for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, but okay, Eva, before we dive right in, I'm going to go into the usual type of stuff that I ask my guests, which
Okay.
is, could you tell us a little bit about you? So before we get into the work that you do, what got you onto this path? What was it? What was sort of that aha moment that you kind of went, you know what, I need to work with people as an intuitive healer? Because I feel like it's oftentimes the same for a lot of us, but there's always an interesting backstory there as well.
Yes, of course. And there is a story behind it because I am Hungarian originally, and I
Hmm.
have been living in the UK for 15 years now. In 2008, I felt depressed. And at that point, I completely lost direction. I didn't know what to do. I chose talk therapy rather than medication. And I started
Hmm.
to realize that I've got something that maybe not everyone has. My healing ability started to show up. And I had this feeling that I would like to help others, mainly women, to get out of depression. So when I recovered, I was drawn to Reiki healing, not just for myself to get better, but to help others. And that's where it started from. That's when the whole new world opened up for me. So basically, I managed to turn depression around and use it as a stepping stone.
Oh, that is just beautiful. Really incredible. Because this is what I think a lot of people tend to go through is we start to heal ourselves, and then before we know it, we're like, well, you know what, if it worked for me, maybe I can shine that light out into the world for other people too, which I think is just such a beautiful thing. Now I see we already have a question here from Azade6653. Yes, absolutely, Azade. What you can do is pop your question in the chat box, and as we're progressing through the interview, will endeavor to answer that for you. So back to you, Ava. Now, your work that you're doing is, I think, so beautiful also because one of the things that you mentioned in your pre-interview questions was you're helping people to live an empowered life based on love, not fear.
Yes.
And the reason why I think that that is so beautiful is because our world has very much been fear-based. You know, it's always been work hard, otherwise you might lose your job. You know, eat healthy because then otherwise you might get sick. We're always approaching things from a fear of what might happen, as opposed to from a love perspective of, I'm going to eat healthy because I love my body. I'm going to work hard because I enjoy what I'm doing. So this is, I think, really, really beautiful. But maybe you could walk us through what your work actually entails and how you help people to live from the divine. I notice you made one of the taglines is going from logic to intuition. So if you could walk us through that a little bit.
Yes, of course. So as I mentioned, with this depression, I started to walk a brand new life,
Mm,
or a brand new path, and start to live a brand new life. And what I noticed that when I was treating people with Reiki healing, yes, I managed to raise their vibration, and they felt really good, and they left the session like, oh my God, I never experienced anything like this. But they obviously, after a while, went back to the starting point, because they went back to their life doing exactly the same that they have been doing. Like you mentioned, living from here, their vibration went straight down. And so I realized I would like to give them some tools which they can take away. So it's not just them relying on me, but helping to change their habits and helping to live an empowered life. So I learned many modalities like crystal healing, color therapy. Also, I am a Qigong for Health teacher, which is Qigong is based in Chinese medicine. So it is helping people to use their own life force energy to direct it in a very positive way. These are all part of my method, what I am teaching for people to empower them. And the beauty is they can take it away, so they don't need to just be with me all the time. And also I learned to become a law of attraction practitioner, understanding the energy world fully, how it works, and how it makes a huge difference when someone is actually acting from love rather than fear. So my method has been for about 10 years to do the hands-on healing and pair it up with coaching, so people understand what's happening with them, how they can help themselves, and give them these tools to take away. Does it answer your question?
it does indeed, and I think that that is so brilliant because so often when I'm talking to other coaches and whatnot, there is generally a theme that runs through, and that is that we always try to be the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. We try
Yeah.
really hard to make sure that, like you say, our clients are then not dependent on us, but rather that they have real tools that they can take away with them and run with that in their lives. So I think that that is just amazing that that's what you're doing. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is you started out in the corporate professional world. And I say this with a bit of a smirk because it's so interesting to me how many of my latest interviewees have all come from a similar background as myself, where we've all worked in the financial services industry in some way, shape, or form. You started out as a commercial economist.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand of that particular field of work, that can be a very stressful job, um, but also it's also quite rewarding. Of course, any work can be rewarding if done from the right perspective. Do you miss it? Do you still do some work in that arena, or have you transitioned completely into your new modality?
The short answer is yes, I completely transitioned. So basically what happened was I was 35 when I changed countries. So when I moved from Hungary abroad, and I didn't come straight to UK. But when I settled down here, I realized that I can't really work in my old profession without much effort, and I didn't want to relearn everything in my second language, in English, and that kind of put me into crossroads. And when this depression happened, and as I mentioned, I used it as a stepping stone, I I found a world which works completely differently, and I allowed myself to shift into the intuitive life. And when you do that, you never want to go back, because you don't want to feel stress, you don't want to feel fear. And I am not missing it. For a while, when financially I wasn't stable, because it wasn't just all happy and successful um, 10 years in my life, I felt like, oh, maybe that could give me a bit more stable income. But that was the only thing that made me think, shall I keep it as a side work, or what shall I do? But now I am able to rely on my holistic work, no, I would never go back.
Fantastic. That's actually such a beautiful story. And I think it's one that most of us agree, that is, even though the corporate world is definitely exciting, I'll put it that way. But I think when you've had a proper taste of this kind of work and the rewards that it offers, seeing your clients making these massive changes in very short spaces of time, seeing their lives go from stressed to thriving, you're just able to look around and go, why would I change this? For what possible reason could I want to work with anything else? So for sure. Now, this is a bit more of a personal curiosity question as opposed to anything to do with this particular topic, but we will swing back in a second. But it's just something that I've been dying to ask you since we got on this interview. You are from Hungary, and one of my favorite cities in the world besides beautiful Cape Town, where I live. Unfortunately, there's nothing in my office I can show you that looks like Cape Town right now, but one of my favorite cities in the world is Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to visit there last year for the first time after being dying to go for 5-6 years. Whenever I see the adverts, I'm like, oh, I have to go to Budapest. And I finally got an opportunity last year, just before all the lockdowns, to visit. Why on earth did you leave such a beautiful place?
Well, thank you. I do love Budapest too. I have lived there for 5 years, but I am from the countryside. And this is actually a very important question because when I was 35, as I mentioned, I was standing at crossroads. And the reason was because I met an Englishman in Hungary a few years prior to that. And I had a fantastic relationship with him. And he came when, after the Iron Curtain fell, because Hungary was a communist country, we had expats from abroad helping us to stand on our feet and giving us help in management positions. So my Englishman was one of these, and after a few years his work finished because he's done the job what he came to do, and he didn't learn the language. So there wasn't an option for him to stay in Hungary. I had to make a decision whether I will go with him to abroad or we are going to part from each other and live a different life. So I decided to come with him. And this is how I ended up in the UK.
Well, talk about choosing a life based on love rather than fear. I think that is just a beautiful story. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Now, okay, Eva, before we start wrapping up, there's one final question that I'd love to hear your answer to. It's in regards to the talk that you are doing for the Wellness Lifestyle Conference coming up this week, Saturday, on the 20th of February. And for those of you listening, again, the link for the Wellness Lifestyle Conference is in my bio, where you'll be able to get access to all the premium content that a lot of our speakers are sharing. But you specifically, your talk is talking about divine living from logic to intuition, but specifically you are discussing a quantum shift that occurred in your life last May that really helped you to, I'm guessing, completely release any old modalities. Would you like to share a little bit with us about what that was like for you?
Yeah, I'm trying not to say much about my talk because then people don't want to listen. So basically, what happened prior to May last year, I got into a very dark place because my private life went really pear-shaped. I decided to file for divorce, and of course that brought up lots of questions about how am I going to support myself fully, because I don't know about you, but the holistic healing arena sometimes is an up and down, a roller coaster ride financially. So yes. I just needed to be sure I can support myself. So I got really into almost like a trap. because I just didn't know what to do. So then the lockdown hit, obviously, it got even harder. I lost my income. And this quantum shift is something that I never expected to happen. I had no idea it's possible. And without sharing much about it, this is something now I am teaching others how to do. And this is why my talk is titled Divine Living, because divine living means that you live your excitement. You live with, not just with excitement, but you live your passion. You live what gives you joy. And I really can't wait to share this with the audience, how empowering it is to step into this completely new world. And that shift is not impossible. It's not something like, oh, it's good for her, she done it, but how am I going to do it? I can give a 6 steps, almost like instruction, how to do this.
Fantastic, because I know that so many people really kind of went through the ringer last year with lockdowns, not just financially, but also emotionally and mentally. A lot of people were forced to look at themselves long and hard in the mirror and go, is this the life I really want to be living? And I find it so interesting that so many of my, not just my clients, but my colleagues and the other speakers and the various healers that I work with all said that last year was such a big shift for them, myself included. You know, it was a really big mental shift that needed to happen. And it hasn't been the easiest thing. You know, I think also in the community, there's a lot of this idea of love and light, constant love and light, love and light, love and light. And people forget that the universe is very much about polarity. There's ups and there's downs, there's darkness and light. So, you know, whilst, yes, it's a positive quantum shift that's been happening in a lot of people's lives, that's not to say that it's not a difficult process to go through. So I think that having those tools to be able to navigate those dark waters more effectively is so important for people. So for everybody listening here today, catching the replays as well, you're going to want to be there for this talk so that you can get your hands on those tips, because I think that that is just going to be so incredible for everybody who is still maybe struggling or who knows that whatever life that they're currently living is not for them and they need to make a shift and they need to make a change, but they don't even know where to start. So this will be a really good way to kickstart that process, I think.
Absolutely.
So, Ava, once we're going to start wrapping up and whatnot, but how do people get in touch with you if clients want to work directly with you? If there's anybody on this live today, or again catching the replay, who feels that they've really resonated with you, what would you suggest? How do people get in touch with you?
Well, the best way is either sending me an email or visit my website, because on my website they can find everything that I do. Do you think I can share it afterwards to put it in as a link?
I'll pop it in the comments as well, and I will link to your Instagram profile too, so that people can go through to your profile and to your website as well.
Absolutely. So just before I go, I do many other things than we talked about. And on my website, everything is featured. So if they would like some intuitive readings or coaching or healing, everything is available.
Fantastic. Ava, it has been such a joy to have you with us today. I really do I appreciate your energy. It's so bright and light on so early on a Monday morning when most people I think are kind of going, oh, new week, but it's just been so good to have this conversation with you today and joyful. So thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to your talk on Saturday as well. That'll be available on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference. One last time, everybody, link for the Wellness Lifestyle Conference is in my bio, and I'll be linking through to Eva in the comments section of this video. Eva, thank you so much.
Thank you.
An absolute pleasure to have you today. Go well, and we will speak very soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers then. Bye.
Bye. Bye.